Okay, here we go. I'm Scoot. This is the scootontheair.com website, and it's also on the Scoot on the Air YouTube channel. This is the Daily Hit. And the Daily Hit is a quick take on the top news stories of the day, politics and pop culture. But it's a perspective from me, and I'm like many of you. I'm a registered independent. Even if you're a registered Republican or Democrat, chances are you lean to the middle from both sides. Well, that's what this represents. And I have a sense of what's best for people, not politicians. What's best for the people, not parties. Okay, so the boycott Super Bowl rallies and events, New Orleans, Super Bowl Sunday, did put a dent in the Super Bowl ratings. It's amazing. The city of New Orleans was last out of 56 markets, was the lowest rated city in terms of people watching the Super Bowl. New Orleans ratings last year, the rating last year was about 53%. So about 53% of all the TVs that were on last Super Bowl Sunday in the New Orleans area, in this market, about 53% were watching the Super Bowl. Super Bowl Sunday, 26.1%. That's basically half. So taking to the streets, ignoring the Super Bowl, the city of New Orleans had an impact on the national ratings. And the national ratings were down for the 9th consecutive year. And this is, it was a 9-year low, but for the 4th consecutive year, there's been a drop in the NFL's ratings for the Super Bowl. So, see, this is why Roger Goodell and the owners need to do the right thing. Unless they feel like we're just going to milk this, we're going to get as much money as we can out of everybody, and then we kick back. Because, once you have a certain amount of money, you don't have to work. You don't have to do anything. You can just, you've made your money, you can just kick back. It's not like the people who work paycheck to paycheck. It's not like the people who work hard every day and that have to have a job. So, I don't know. Are they going to do the right thing? Maybe they don't care. Maybe they'll let the integrity of the NFL. Maybe they'll let the integrity of the NFL just not matter because they have their money. I don't know. We'll see. We'll be talking more about this when the NFL Rules Committee gets together and when the owners decide to meet. Okay, President Trump is going to deliver his State of the Union address tonight. As you watch tonight, this is going to be, by the way, in Nancy's house. Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House. So Nancy Pelosi, as you look at the screen, Nancy Pelosi will be over his, right shoulder? She'll be back there over his right shoulder. And the always exciting Mike Pence, the vice president, will be over his left shoulder. Now, what's going to be interesting tonight is let's watch and see if we can see any signs that Mike Pence is actually alive. So be watching for that. Tomorrow, we'll have a review of some of the things the president said in the State of the Union address. Also, this is a big, big controversy that we haven't had a chance to get to yet because of the boycott the Super Bowl parties and just the energy that was coming out of New Orleans over that. But Virginia Governor Ralph Northam is being asked to resign. He's a Democrat, governor of Virginia. He's being asked to resign. And he doesn't want to resign. He's being asked to resign because, a picture surfaced, interestingly, on the first day of Black History Month, February 1st. A picture surfaced from his medical school yearbook. The picture was a picture of Governor Northam. It was a picture of two people. One person was in blackface. The other person was wearing a KKK cone hood and robe. The picture surfaced, it's in his yearbook, and on Friday he said, this was 1984, it was a long time ago, 35 years ago, I apologize. He apologized for being one of the people that didn't say which one. Well, the next day he comes back and goes, hey, I did some thinking about this and I realized that that wasn't me. Neither one of those people was me. I mean, how believable is that? Well, it's not believable at all. I mean, you admit it one day that you're one of them, and then they say, oh, no, wait a minute. That was, well, because you couldn't see who it was. You couldn't see the guy under the hood because that's what the Klan did. They hide. They didn't have the courage to show who they were. So they would hide their faces under these white cone hoods. And then they would cover themselves up with the white robes. So they were cowards. Anyway, so you couldn't tell who that person was. You couldn't tell who the person was with blackface. But in apologizing for the picture, he said, well, I wasn't in that picture, but I once put on blackface to imitate Michael Jackson. I know, right? If you're imitating Michael Jackson, I wouldn't really quite call that blackface, okay? So the other thing here is, if you imitate a specific person, that's different from blackface, because blackface is a historical representation of arguably the height of racism in America. And the blackface represents all blacks. To specifically imitate one black by doing blackface, if it's specific to that character, that person, that's different than blackface. So let's not even confuse those two things. So the question is, should Governor Ralph Northam, should he resign? Oh, by the way, and now there's some criticism that has just surfaced of the Lieutenant Governor of Fairfax, who is African American, and there are allegations of sexual harassment, sexual assault in his past. He denies it. And he says, isn't it interesting that this would come up at the very moment that I may be elevated to the governor? And this really brings up an interesting thing. From my standpoint here in New Orleans, sitting right here now in downtown New Orleans, it's hard to imagine that Virginia is the South because it's so far north. Geographically, it's so far north from New Orleans. But Virginia was the seat of the Confederacy. Virginia is the old South. I mean, it's as mentally Southern as New Orleans and Mississippi and Alabama. And I guess sometimes we don't think that because, you know, Virginia is like right next to Washington, D.C., and we consider it to be in the Northeast. But it's technically, it is deep rooted in Southern mentality. And so it doesn't surprise me that there would be an undermining of the lieutenant governor because he's black. I guess the question is, something you did 35 years ago, does it matter? And Governor Northam has been known to be very sensitive to civil rights issues. He's been a beacon for the African American community. He's fought for equal rights over the last 35 years. So does appearing in a picture, either in blackface or in a KKK hood and robe, does that take away what you've done? Should he be forced out of office? He doesn't want to resign. He doesn't want to be forced out now because he says he doesn't want to be seen as a racist for life. People change. But what we've learned is that whether this is fair or not, there are some things you cannot do. Even if it was done in the innocence and the stupidity of your youth, if some things that you have done surface, it may taint who you are today, even though you've changed. As I said, maybe that's not fair, but that's reality. And it is unfortunate that in America, we are so quick to judge people before the facts come out. That's not fair. I don't know that that's the case here because there's every reason to believe, because this was on his page in his med school yearbook, And he admitted to it, initially admitted to it, and then realized, wait a minute, you can't tell if I'm in the hood, you can't tell if I'm under the blackface, so I'll just say I wasn't either one of them. So again, it just seems like an excuse. And then the excuse of, well, but I once wore blackface to imitate Michael Jackson. It's, it's bogus. So in this case, if you are a politician, not everybody gets to be a politician. And sometimes your past comes back to haunt you. And if you or if anybody has done something like appear, if you're white, if you appear in blackface, if you have appeared in a KKK cone hood and robe, and this surfaces later, this is going to taint you. And look, let's also go back to the fact that this was 1984. This was about the time, Michael Jackson's Thriller album was reaching a peak. So 1984, I mean, I lived through 1984. So did you. In fact, you and I experienced 1984 as long as anybody else. We experienced the whole year. That's right, the whole year. It's not like it was 1954. Even 1964, for today's establishment, the baby boomers, 1964 was a time of starting to recognize a racial injustice in America. But 1984, blackface and a KKK hood and robe, that ain't cool. So it's time for Virginia Governor Ralph Northam to quit. And again, while this is not fair to some degree, not everybody gets to be a politician. Not everybody deserves to be a politician. And if there's something in your past that surfaces, look, some things can come up from your past and people go, that's not a big deal. But some things will surface. If it's a big deal, you're out. And I think that Virginia Gov should quit. He's done. It's over. I'm Scoot, and thanks for watching The Daily Hit on the Scoot on the Air YouTube channel, also on the website, scootontheair.com. And I want you to check our website every day. Right underneath the picture on the front page of the website, scootontheair.com, there is a bar, daily content. Click on that, and you'll get the latest daily content. Have a good day.